Yo, welcome back. It's Friday, right? Technically not Friday for me, but it's Friday for y'all. Y'all know what that means? That means we are back with another video for Fright Night Fridays. I am like truly loving this series because I love catching these videos, reacting to them, and seeing these scenarios play out there. Funny, some of them give you some jump scares, but overall I really enjoy it, and I do love that you guys are enjoying it as well. From looking at the 3 videos we've posted so far, this is episode 4. Remember, every Friday I'll be releasing an episode to Fright Night Fridays, and I want you guys to comment the type of videos and stuff you want to see. Like if you come across some horror stuff, a horror game or whatever it may be that you want me to play, because I do want to incorporate games into this series as well. Let me know. Comment that in the comment section, or during the live premiere when we're watching it all together through the live premiere every Friday at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's enough of me talking. I'm gonna jump right into this for our first videos.
In the video, you can see a woman trying to escape a man who followed her to her apartment. She was only seconds
She's not showing enough
away from
urgency
inside when the man ran toward her at full speed, trying to catch her. The following animation.
How you gonna ring the doorbell? Like, you thought she was about to open the door, or was that the peephole and he was trying to cover it? You only covered it for 2 seconds, bro. That wasn't. She still saw you.
I often had to face creeps at work. Weird men would hit on me and make sly comments whenever they approached my counter.
That is. All right.
I was used to people like this after a point, and gradually built up my comebacks to get rid of such men.
Computer volume up.
It was a Wednesday afternoon. I was working like usual when I felt someone was watching me. As I lifted my eyes to look around, I saw a guy staring at me from the corner shelves. His eyes were so big that it kind of made
looked
me
like a
cringe.
vampire.
Still, I kept calm and concentrated on my work.
Remember, people was doing that, like shaving their teeth
around
the shape of vampires. People also was doing like the little tongue, snake tongue, cutting they like.
Slowly, he walked toward me.
You know how painful that would be
to insult
to
the
cut your
hell out of
tongue
him.
like that. Ugh.
He smiled awkwardly and said,
Sorry if I made you uncomfortable.
I didn't expect him to apologize like that, so I fumbled.
Sorry if I made you uncomfortable. He knows he's a uncomfortable person.
Well, I don't know what I thought. A pretty girl like you would never agree to go with a loser like me. So, I'm sorry. I'm rambling. But it's true. You are pretty.
Nervous, but that's how it be. You see a fine person.
You already knew that, though.
Just like, damn, they fine,
I
right?
couldn't help but blush.
It'd be
and also laugh at the
so
same
scary
time,
and nerve-wracking
seeing him
to
struggling
try and
like a teenager.
break that ice. Cause like, what if they hold you?
At least I made you laugh.
Man,
We both chuckled. He said his name was Damien, and he worked at the
he got
local
his nails
garage.
done. Okay, he
I
came
won't
in there
deny
clean.
that his
All
awkward
right.
proposal felt kind of refreshing. I also felt bad for mistaking
Why
him
her
for
hair
a
at the
creep,
bottom, like
so
her
we went for
ponytail
coffee
faded.
during my lunch break.
It's like they ran
We talked,
out of
and
color
he
on
seemed
whatever
like a
marker
nice
they were
guy.
using.
When I noticed it was time to get back to work, I got up, saying, "So,
Oh, y'all went
it's
to a
time for me
date
to
while
get
you
back
were
to
still
the
at
store.
work? Wow.
I'll
Okay.
see you around then."
My friends are having a party tonight. If you want, I could pick you up after work. I want to know you more, I guess.
Saying this, he smiled and
Why is
scratched
she
his
not
head.
concerned
I
about
blushed
his
again
teeth?
and agreed.
And
I had
then
nothing
his
to do that
nails.
evening anyway,
I mean, his
so
nails
going to a
done,
party
but look
seemed
how
like a
sharp
good
they
plan.
is.
I went back to work and finished my shift in excitement. It had been
Got
a
some
long
grapes.
time
She about
since
to
I
get
had dated
fried.
someone.
That's beer in there. We see that.
Before leaving the store, I went to the washroom, fixed my hair, and put on some
You about
lipstick
to get
to look
fried.
I had just come out from the store, thinking Damien would be there
You ain't
any
gonna
minute.
take a shower,
As
like
I
do
turned
like a
around,
little. My mom
I
called
almost
these.
screamed in shock.
Hello.
Whoa. My mom, growing up, I don't know, like your parents used to say this. My mom used to say, like, you take a little bath and like a little quick rinse in the tub, or if you like hop in the shower and you be in there for like less than 3 minutes, she called that a hoe bath. Y'all parents used to y'all grew up with that saying? Like, drop in the comments if y'all parents ever said that, like a hoe bath. My mom used to say that all the time. Like when we had to, like, especially when I was younger growing up, you know, kids, we get dirty real quick, but you got to go somewhere. She was like, hop in there, take a whole bath real quick. That's crazy. But why didn't she do that? That's what I was getting to. Like,
Damien
why didn't she
stood
do that?
right behind me, as if he never left. He expanded his eyes widely and said,
Ready to go to the party?
Buddy
yeah,
nocturnal.
yeah,
She don't
let's
know
go.
that yet, though.
I
That's what's
noticed
crazy.
he hadn't brought a car when I
He
clearly
is
remembered him
nocturnal.
saying he would pick me up. Maybe his friends were partying nearby, so I didn't make a fuss about it. We started walking on the sidewalk. It was 9 p.m., and the streets were stranded already. I asked him, "So, where do you live?"
That's a nice looking
close
nighttime
by.
sky, though.
I see.
Close by.
How was your day?
Boring.
His one-word replies seemed weird all of a sudden. He was looking around like a sneaky cat while walking with me. I didn't know why
A
his
sneaky
behavior
cat.
was so different. For a second, it felt like he was not the man I thought he was in the afternoon. After
That's just-
walking for 5 minutes, we
You
took
gotta
a
do
left
a little
turn,
bit of research.
and Damien stopped
Into
in
an
front
alley?
of a dark alley.
Girl.
A man dressed in a white vest and tattered trousers surfaced from the alley and
Is it a zombie?
smiled at Damien. Seeing that
You got a
man,
vampire and then a
Damien
zombie.
seemed nervous again, and he looked at me. I was confused at the same time, which he seemed to notice. Who is this man?
That's my Fred. He's the one throwing the party. His
Really?
condo
In
is
an
located
alley?
inside that alley. Come on, let's go.
I don't
Was
hear
this
any
New York
music
City?
coming from the alley.
New York
You
City,
sure
the
there's
only
a
place that
party
got
happening
houses in an
inside
alley.
this dingy alley?
Of course I am. No, stop talking so much and come with us.
Hearing him
This ain't
yell
New York
like
City,
that
that's
for
a red
no
flag.
reason, I quickly figured out something bad was about to happen. I took
Facts.
a few steps back, saying, "Maybe
No, you
some
don't
other
wanna-
time, Damien. I forgot I have to wake up early tomorrow. I better get going. Okay, good night." Saying this, I turned around to leave when Damien
I just don't
grabbed
understand.
my shirt,
You don't
trying to
broadcast
pull
what
me
you're about
toward
to do.
him.
Don't
I
take a
didn't
few steps
realize how
back because that's
strong
going
he
to
was
alert them.
until he
Then
pulled
don't
my shirt
also
and it
tell
ripped
them
off
what you're
from the
about to
back.
do
Don't
until
let
you
her
already
escape.
gone.
Now the other guy screamed, and I understood this was all a malevolent trap.
Yeah, that got to be a
I
zombie
started
and,
running
and,
for my
a
life.
vampire.
Turning
Gotta
back,
be.
I saw the guy, Damien, or whatever his real name was, chasing me at full speed, and the other guy was running
That's
behind
full
him
speed.
too. My apartment was down the block, and there was no one in the area to ask for help.
All them
I
damn
couldn't call the
houses.
cops
Ain't nobody
because
like
I
that's
knew
what be
if I
killing me.
tripped,
Ain't
they were
nobody
gonna
up.
Catch me.
Run faster.
Where the f
She's
you
getting
live
away.
at?
Stop. Why are you running away? Just trust me. We're gonna have,
ain't that
have so
late.
much fun, Rosie. Stop, I said. That witch is not going to stop you, stupid moron. You just ruined the plan.
I could hear them shouting at each other while chasing
What's the
me.
plan though?
When I reached my block, I turned around one more time and saw Damien panting on the road. He wasn't chasing me anymore. But even though he gave up, the other man didn't. He was still coming at me and was
He
desperate
is
to get his hands on
desperate.
me. I got inside my building and started to rush up the stairs. I could hear the man's heavy footsteps. I grabbed my key from my bag while going up because I didn't want to waste a single second unlocking my apartment door. As soon as I reached my
That's
apartment,
smart.
without
Ripped the
panicking
hole
or
out her
surrendering
shirt.
to my fear, I calmly inserted the key
I
and
mean,
unlocked the door.
that's a
The
goated
man
move right
ran
there.
like
That's a
mad
top tier
horse,
move.
almost slamming on my door. But before he could get in, I got in and closed it. My breathing
how
was heavily disoriented. Sweat
difficult
was all
it is
over me, and I could feel my heart
to
beating
stick
in my
a key
throat.
in a
Open
keyhole
the door.
when you
I
nervous,
said,
when you shaking.
open it.
The
To
man
do that
kept
first try,
banging and
calm
kicking
herself,
my
that's a
door,
goated move
trying
right
his
there.
best to get in.
Gonna lie to
But
you.
I knew he couldn't touch me now. I screamed from the other side.
You've been caught on a CCTV camera in the hallway, prick. I'm calling the cops. Just wait and watch.
Suddenly, the
Wait
banging
and watch.
stopped,
These wait
and
and
I heard
watches be
running
killing me. Like,
footsteps fading away.
ain't no waiting. Call the
I called
police.
the cops and reported these
Hey,
guys, but they
Get
were
this
never
man up
found.
out of here.
I think they left the area, fearing
Wait
that they
and
would
watch.
rot in jail. I carried an electric taser and pepper spray to work for almost 3 months. I just couldn't take the risk after that
You
night.
shouldn't have stopped carrying
It
it.
scares me to death how that guy Damien trapped me in his lies. A cold shiver rushes down my spine
'cause you
whenever
didn't do
I
no
think
research.
about that night.
You let this man
No
run some
doubt
weak
those
game
two
on you.
criminals have done this before, and God knows where their previous victims are. Do you think any of them managed to escape, as I did?
What y'all thought about that video? What y'all thought she could have did better? What y'all thought she did good? I thought she handled like the getting away portion good. Like I said, you know how hard it is to like put a key in a keyhole when you like nervous and you shaking, and to do that quickly, whoo, she had some skill on her for that one.
A girl was looking for love on a dating show in the year 1978.
Oh, I remember this one.
After
This one for
choosing
real,
between
for
three
real.
bachelors,
This one I know
the
is
girl
real.
appeared
All these
to have
other
met
ones
the
I ain't
man
never
of her
heard of
dreams.
before. This one I
Little
know
did
is for
she
real.
know that man was Rodney Alcala, a dangerous serial killer looking
That's
for his
crazy.
next victim.
A serial
Here is
killer
the
was
animated
literally
version
on
of
a
the
game
actual
show
story.
and had plans to
The
kill her.
mind of the
That's
psychopath
crazy,
is
ain't it?
really very complex. These people usually appear sympathetic, elegant, and understanding. These people do not feel empathy. They do not feel love. It's all a facade. This is not easy to identify, so their victims are manipulated by their charms, and not all of them survive to tell the tale. Today, there are tools to identify these people, but the truth is that in 1978, it was not even believed that psychopaths were real. Unbeknownst to me,
It's crazy to
I
think
had
about,
a date with a psychopath that year, but not just any psychopath. My date was with Rodney Alcala,
Why you make
one of
his
the
face
most
look
famous
like that?
serial
Wow.
killers in history.
That's crazy.
It all started at a famous dating
They
show.
really got him looking
Everyone
like a
went
werewolf out
there
here.
to become famous or for the possibility of appearing on television, but that was not my case. I was young and innocent, and I really thought it was very romantic to meet the love of my life on something as much of a vanity as a reality show. In the game, I had to choose between 3 men, all interested in dating me. Although I had heard the 3 voices of my suitors, only one caught my attention. That man was Rodney Alcala, who at the time I only knew as Bachelor Number 1. Although I didn't see his face, the man was charismatic, funny, and seductive. When the show ended and I was asked which contestant I wanted to date, the answer was very clear. I chose the psycho. We saw each other's
That you
faces
did.
for the first time, and he gave me a hug. When we both left the show, we won the strangest prizes from the host: a tennis lesson with an instructor and a day at an amusement park. It wasn't my ideal date, but who knows? It might be fun.
I must say you made a great decision, but we both know it was the only one.
What can I say? Seeing you, I knew I made the right choice. We spent the trip talking about our lives and flirting. We were both very talkative and had a lot of chemistry. It was natural that things flowed so well. What I didn't know was that this was all a facade
Is that the
would
other
quickly
game show
fade
guy?
away
Yeah,
when I
that is
asked a
him.
question he didn't like. At that moment, we were playing tennis, and we decided to take a break and chat while the instructor
Tennis is
had
a
to
very
take
fun
call.
sport. Very
So,
fun.
do you mind if I ask what the other contestants were like?
Actually, yes, I do mind.
At first, I thought it was a joke, but his smile wiped off his face. My comment didn't please him.
Hey, sorry, I was just...
How'd you feel if I made you compete with 2 other women, and a few minutes after I chose you, I told you about them?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean
Man.
to.
It's
Like,
enough that I've lowered
attitude.
myself to compete for another person. But while you're with me, I don't want you to talk to me about any other man. Got it?
Wow.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I remember feeling very bad at that moment. I know it sounds crazy, but everything he told me had a strange logic, and for some reason, I believed him. We went back to play tennis again, but something had changed. The atmosphere felt very strange. Rodney was no longer there with his characteristic smile that he had all the way, and the balls he was throwing at me were no longer friendly. Every time he had to serve or return a shot to me, the balls were going with great power toward my body. He would look at the coach and tell that he didn't calculate his strength, but I could see the anger in his eyes every time he served. I knew he was lying. We each showered in our own locker room. As I bathed, I thought about how badly I had behaved with Rodney. Today, it seems ridiculous, but in 1978, things were very different. There were a lot of
That
things
definitely
that
is
would never
ridiculous.
happen today. I was finishing my shower when I heard a noise coming
But
from
I mean,
the
there's
back
still
of the
guys
locker
like
room.
that that's
I thought
super
it was another girl
insecure
getting
like
ready
that.
to play, but the
These
fact that
days.
it was the only noise I heard seemed strange. I finished showering and went out with a towel to change. I was curious if that noise was my imagination or if there was a girl, but I definitely wasn't expecting what I saw. Rodney was
What?
sitting in his boxers, freshly showered and waiting for me.
What the fuck? What are you doing here?
I was waiting for my girl while she was taking a bath. Is there a problem?
Yeah, you're in the
we
girls'
don't
room.
even know each other.
Right.
You can't just show up out of nowhere while I'm
Ain't the
changing.
only problem.
Were you
She-
spying on me?
I was just checking the goods.
Didn't you just hear me?
His smile was erased.
I was just
in an instant.
checking the
He
goods.
came up to me and put me
Sick.
against the wall, with one hand against the wall beside my head.
Maybe I don't care what you have to say.
Hey, you're scaring me.
Good. You should be a little scared. You're talking way too much. Now, say you're sorry.
Sorry.
I forgive you. Now get ready to go to the amusement park. Let's get this out of the way before we go to my house for the night. I'll show you how I forgive you by giving you the best night of your life.
You're gonna have to shave your back first for that. And your
Hey,
stomach.
are you crying? Is this a fucking joke? You should be grateful that I put up with all your hysterics. And you have the luxury of crying? What have I done to deserve that? You are so selfish. If you make a fuss, I'm gonna put you in your place, understand? No one will defend you. People hate people like you. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand.
Fix that
She don't get
face.
the fuck up out of
I'll
there.
wait for you
The
outside.
first sign.
And without further ado, Rodney left. I could hear him standing impatiently at the door, waiting for me. The only reason he left was probably that he was afraid someone else would come in. Otherwise, I don't know what he would have done to me. I kept fixing my face to continue with the date, terrified. At that moment, I thought a lot. Was this man
Her
really
eyebrows
making
doing
me
some
think this
crazy
was
shit.
my fault? Was my life in danger and I didn't even realize it? With a lot of doubts, I got brave. I left the faucet on and escaped out the window, running as far as I could without
There you go.
direction. Eventually, Rodney stuck in my mind as a bad date. I admit that part of me thought I was too extreme, that maybe he was a nice person, but he was nervous, or
He was
maybe I
tripping.
had done something wrong. Sometime later, watching the news, I realized how
Alright,
lucky
still
I
shaking.
was to
Girl, it's
escape
been
that
a couple weeks, ain't
afternoon. A reporter was announcing that Rodney Alcala had been imprisoned for the murder of several women. He had been prosecuted for the murder of 7 women, but was suspected of having killed over 100.
That's
More
crazy.
than 40 years later, my children show me YouTube videos of me, young and innocent, being tricked and manipulated by a serial killer. Everyone tells me I dodged a bullet by running away, but they're wrong. The bullet hit me right in the heart. It took me a long time to stop crying at night, thinking about how that day could have ended, how I doubted myself and believed the lies of a monster. Today, things have changed, but psychopaths are not extinct. If you're ever in a situation like this, never doubt yourself, and remember, you are not to blame.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I said that is a true story. That's of all the videos that I've watched, that's the first one, because they always say it's like based off true stuff. That's the first one that I've seen that I've actually knew about and that that I know is true. That's still crazy though. To experience that, right? Like to be in a situation to where when you look back, you could have been dead. Like that's really like a traumatic experience to go through. But just as she said, don't ever doubt yourself. You see them red flags, keep telling y'all each video, you see them red flags, get the hell up out of there. We ain't got time to wait for event after event after event to unfold. You start seeing those bad boys, get the hell up out of there. That's the takeaway from this video. Get the hell up out of there. You start seeing some shit and you start questioning yourself, right? Just follow your gut, believe in what you like, believe in yourself and what you're seeing and what you're saying, and get the hell up out of there. But let me know what y'all thought about that video as we move on to our next. Video.
Go ahead and tell everybody what the you're doing. What the are you doing? What love? I don't know you. Out of here!
I don't want to seem self-centered, but I am a beautiful woman.
This one going
although
crazy.
That's not necessary to be harassed. Very often, I used to hear anecdotes from my friends about how men had chased them in the street, said nasty phrases to them, and even dared to touch them. That always made me feel somehow lucky, since something similar had not happened to me. For a long time, I thought it was because I had just been lucky, but that was not the case. Without realizing it, I had not been harassed because I was always accompanied by a man. My father, my brothers, or my friends. It's sad, isn't it, that a woman is only safe next to a guy, which sooner or later would have to change. That year, I had started my studies in biological sciences.
Okay,
the
she's
vast
smart.
majority of my friends had moved on to other universities, and I still hadn't gotten to know too many of my classmates. So the only person accompanying me back then was Emma, an old friend who was now a nursing student.
June, wait for me!
We usually ate together. In fact, that afternoon, after class, we decided to go to a cafeteria near the faculty.
What are you gonna eat?
I don't know, probably a sandwich and a coffee?
Ha! Sometimes you're too boring to be true.
Got the pet
Hey,
Coca-Cola on the
To
side.
check how much money I had, I opened my bag and started looking for my wallet.
I don't have enough.
When taking out my wallet, suddenly, a pink piece of paper fell to the floor.
Huh? You dropped something.
Without giving me time to react, my friend grabbed the paper, opened it, and began to read it.
Being nosy.
Oh! Soon, she took her eyes off the paper and turned to look at me mischievously.
Why didn't you tell me? We just started a few weeks ago, and look what you've achieved.
What are you talking about, Emma? She extended her hand to me. That's when I grabbed the paper and looked at what was written there.
Will you go on
Will
a
you
date
go
with
out on
me,
a date
June?
with me, June? Was what it said.
Why do you
You
look
gotta
so
capitalize
surprised?
the first letter of a
What
name,
on
buddy.
another occasion
Whoever
would have
wrote
been a
that.
romantic detail at that moment
That would
made
have
me
been a
want to
turn-off
vomit,
already right there.
since
I
I
read
still
that and
had
you-
no new
and you
friends,
don't
much
capitalize
less a
the first
potential
letter
partner.
of my name.
June? I don't
Can't
know
have
who
it.
did this.
Can't have it.
And it wasn't just that. I had no idea when someone could have put that in my bag.
Hey, relax. Maybe they just put it in the wrong bag. It says my name, Emma. Okay, I'm
that's the
sorry,
problem.
but
You
calm
gotta-
down.
you gotta-
Look at it this way.
you can't
This person
have
is too
friends
cowardly
that
to
are
talk
skeptical.
to you, so they're not going to try again.
I
you
looked
mean?
at the paper for a few seconds while I
Ooh.
thought. Either way,
gotta get her
what
about
else
your
could
life.
I do?
What was her
If
name?
you say so. As the weeks passed, I practically forgot the matter, since no one told me anything about it.
Good morning, June.
During that time, I had met Jareth, a classmate. For some
music, it
reason,
gotta
I had
be him,
always
right?
found it easier to talk to
That
men than
crazy
women,
music
so
you just
most of
played
my friends were
just for an
guys.
introduction.
I thought the professor would be here by now.
Nope, looks like today's your lucky day.
Yeah. You know, you haven't given me your cell number. Do you think you could?
Of course. I tore a piece of paper out of my notebook and wrote my
Is
cell
that
phone
easy?
number on it.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Thanks, June. I'll text you so you can save mine.
After that, class started normally. When it finished,
Biology.
I packed my things and walked
Lab.
toward the exit while
Man,
putting my
them
cell phone
biology
into my
labs used to
bag.
drive me crazy.
That's when I
man.
saw them. 2 pieces
Did you
of
forget,
pink
June?
paper were there. At
You
that moment,
capitalized
I
the letter,
felt my
or he or she
heart start
capitalized
beating
the
fast.
first letter that time.
Did you
Must've
forget,
hurt me.
June? And
Must've hurt
will
me.
you go out on a date with me? Were what was written on the paper.
Bro, what's your name?
Nervously, I
Ma'am
crumpled
or
them
ma'am,
up
what's your
and
name?
tossed them into the
I
trash
ain't
can.
about to just go on a date. I don't know
Soon,
who
I
you
turned
is.
around to look at the people present in the class. My eyes moved from side to side in search of whoever was responsible for those papers. But no one was even looking at me. Feeling like I was losing my mind, I crossed the door to leave the class.
Come another
But I
creep.
bumped into someone
Oh
halfway.
my goodness.
I'm
But he
sorry.
just got his ass beat or
The
something?
man in front of me had Asian eyes. His hair color was
Asian
black,
eyes?
and he had a beard that was just beginning
Robot
to
eyes.
grow. His appearance was quite normal at first glance, but after a second,
Or did she
his
say
pale
Hazel?
skin,
That
the
definitely
dark
ain't Hazel
circles
either.
under his eyes, and above all, the strange way he was looking at me disturbed me.
You should be.
After listening to him, I quickly moved
Should be
away.
what? Oh.
Hey, June! Are you gonna leave without saying goodbye? Hey, are you feeling alright?
Not really. I have to go.
Okay. I hope you feel better soon.
Thanks, Jareth. When I got home, I felt a little better. I still wasn't sure what to do in that situation, but I knew I had to face that person. Suddenly, I heard my cell phone ring. I had received a message. Answer me, it said. I assumed it was Jareth,
Look at
so
the
I
picture.
replied, Hi,
Look at the picture.
I'm sorry
It's
I left
a
like that.
picture right there.
After a few minutes, another message arrived, but it
Look
was
at
from
the
a
picture.
different cell phone number. Hi, June. I'm Jareth. How are you feeling? It said. At that instant, due to the shock, I felt a strong dizziness. You haven't answered me yet, June, was the next message I received. Don't ignore me. Do you want to go out on a date with me?
Stay
Terrified, the only thing I managed to do was block him. I had no idea how the stalker had gotten my cell phone number, and in fact, that was precisely what had made me so nervous. What else about me could that person know? Are they following me?
Just hanging
Do they
out.
know where I live? The next day, even
Make
though
it
I
make
felt horrible
sense.
since I hadn't been able to
You
sleep,
nervous
I
about what
decided
else
to go
they
to
know
class,
about you,
which
and
was
you
in the
hanging out an
afternoon.
open
Are you okay, June?
window.
Do I look that bad?
I didn't say that. Maybe you need to distract yourself. Would you like to go eat something later?
Maybe. When the class finished, it was already
Swole
night.
as hell.
After
As you
thinking
walk.
about it for a bit,
That's a
I decided to
bodybuilding walk.
accept Jareth's invitation, since maybe he was right. I'll wait for you outside. I walked to the exit of the building and waited for Jareth in front of the doors. It was then that a classmate approached me.
What game do you think you're playing?
Excuse me?
Why did you block me? Why don't you
Oh.
answer me?
It's you!
Answer me!
No!
This
Say it!
tripping.
What?
Go ahead! Go ahead and tell everybody what you're doing!
I'm trying to make love to you.
What are you doing? What love? I don't even know you! Soon, the man began to approach me,
Trying to
and
make
suddenly,
love.
he put his hands on my neck.
Get out of here!
Even though I tried to walk away, he wouldn't let go of me. In fact, he started to choke me.
Damn, her eyes turned red quick as hell.
The next thing I knew was that Jareth had pushed the man away and was beating him
Ooh,
up,
okay.
but I soon passed out.
All right, Jared.
Today, I'm in the
Okay.
hospital, recovering from the attack.
Jareth?
Jareth
Whatever
came
name.
by a while
Yeah, Jareth.
ago and told me that a man is in police custody. Even if I'm terrified, I'm going to do everything I
Where
can
her feet,
to
where's
make
her
sure
legs
that
at?
stalker gets what he deserves.
What y'all thought about that one? That guy was he was very creepy. I'm trying to still figure out what's on his arms and stuff like that. But that has to be like a scary thing. Like I could never like begin to even comprehend the type of things that women go through and experience, because I know y'all experience that type of stuff on a regular basis, and that shit is like honestly terrifying. It's terrifying. It's creeping. It's disgusting. Creeping. It's creepy. It's disgusting. And you really honestly shouldn't have to go through that. So I apologize on behalf of all these creep ass dudes out here that do shit like that. But yeah, that would like I'm terrified of that type of stuff, and I don't usually have I? No, I have never had to worry about nothing like that. That's very scary. That's very scary. Like I said, all I can do is apologize because I can't begin to comprehend how that is. But tell me what y'all thought about that as we move to the next one.
To all those out there who live in areas near wide stretches of empty land like I do, I'm sure you've already been warned why it's dangerous to travel on back roads at night. Growing up in Seattle, one of the biggest cities on the West Coast, I never really needed to worry about the dangers of driving in the middle of nowhere, until I committed to a college in eastern Washington. For those of you who have never been there, the eastern side of Washington is very different from the western side. Some may even think that they accidentally took a wrong turn into a different state. Primarily used as farmland, eastern Washington is almost completely absent from all the elements that give the other side its famous reputation. Instead, this side is mostly just rolling fields of wheat and dried grass that stretch into the distance with a few tumbleweeds and windmills here and there. Driving through this area while the sun is still out is actually quite pleasant on a nice day.
But the sun's
The
not.
big sky above and nothing but miles and miles of golden hills on each side of you. Driving
It's not
through
a
eastern
sunny day.
Washington at
And
night
your lights on?
was one of the
Okay.
most nerve-wracking experiences I ever had, and here's why. If you've ever had to drive down a dark country road at night, I'm sure that you've already been lectured by everybody and their mothers on the obvious dangers like drunk drivers, falling asleep at the wheel, and animals suddenly running across the road. In my particular area, we have a lot of issues with head-on collisions, mainly in part of antsy students passing cars recklessly in an effort to get home faster. In addition to these more sensible hazards to be aware of, there's also a lot of superstitions like ghosts and murdering hitchhikers that wait on the side of the road at odd hours of the night, begging for a ride. To top it all off, probably the most dangerous part of driving on these back roads at night
It's her
is the
driving,
fact that there is no
staring at
cell
her phone and
service
not
throughout a
looking at the
massive
road.
part of the area.
It's pretty dangerous.
So basically, if anything happens to you out here, you're screwed, because you'll have no way of contacting anyone for help. There is no civilization around for who knows how
Just
many
go another way.
miles, and the
Go
chances
another
of
way.
another car coming by anytime soon is pretty slim. With these dangers in mind, it's safe to say that the story I have for you is about an occurrence that I hope never needs to be warned of again. Now let me begin by saying that the creepiest thing about driving through these empty farmlands at night is by far the lack of light. There is no need for any street lights in the middle of nowhere, and no towns or cities anywhere nearby. The only light besides your own headlights is that of the stars and moon above. It's a surreal experience looking out your window and seeing only the darkness beyond the railing on the side of the road. Mostly because
Growing
you
up in
have
the
no
hood, you know
idea what
about
could
that.
be out there. And that's why
No
you
street
should be
lights
scared of driving
anywhere.
on country roads at night. One night, my boyfriend and I were driving home from my cabin in eastern Washington when I noticed a car pulled over on the side
He's
of the road.
voicing a woman?
When we passed the car, I noticed that it was completely empty and wondered where the people inside could have gone, considering there was nothing even remotely in walking distance from where we were. I figured that they had run out of gas and had to hitch a ride to the nearest town.
Trap.
My theory of where they had gone prompted my boyfriend to tell me a story that I will never forget. In the late 90s and early 2000s, Washington State had a bit of a cult problem. This wasn't the first time I was hearing of this, considering the fact that one of the church camps I went to when I was younger was oddly enough built on the grounds of a disbanded satanic cult. Who made that decision? Anyways, most of these cults resided over in the east side because of how far it was away from everything and everybody, and they wanted to isolate themselves. These cults could basically do whatever they wanted and fly completely under the radar due to the fact that there was nobody around to stop them, because a lot of the time nobody even knew they were out there. And that's why they were able to get away with what they did.
About these little
My
markers
boyfriend
around
told
the
me
eyes.
that one summer morning,
Every character
a police
we see in
station in
these
one of the very
animation
few
shows
tiny
got
towns amongst the
markings around their
farmlands
eyes.
received a call reporting a missing person. The caller claimed that her husband had not returned from his shift at the paper mill the night before, and she was worried that he had gotten into an accident because he hadn't answered any of her calls. Many of the residents in these small towns commuted to jobs way out in the country lands, because many of them were either farmers or workers at the local paper mill, so accidents at night were not uncommon. The station agreed to send out a patrol car to look for him. At one point along the road, the officer noticed that one of the speed limit signs had disappeared and noted that it may have been the cause of the missing person's presumed accident. Local kids must have been bored, but what else did they have to do out there?
But you
The
made
man's
up
car
the
was
speed
found
sign
pulled
missing,
off to
like,
the side of the road, about
is
halfway
that,
through
like,
his
were they
commute,
speeding too fast?
without a single scratch on it. The man was nowhere to be found, but his car was unlocked, and his wallet and cell phone lie in plain view on the passenger seat. Something definitely did not seem right. After weeks of investigation, the man was still missing, and nobody had any idea where he had gone. For several days, the police station anxiously waited for any news that could solve the mystery behind the disappearance. But because of the usually uneventful nature of the area, the only report called in was that of another missing speed limit sign. A few days later, another call came in. There was another missing person report, almost identical to the one before. Somebody hadn't returned home from their shift the night before. The police sent out a patrol car once again, and sure enough, there it was. An untouched abandoned car on the side of the road, with the missing person's belongings clearly left behind. But there was something different this time. Faint scratch marks could be seen on the driver's seat that trailed onto the floor and out the door. It appeared that somebody had been dragged from their car. This realization of a possible assault or abduction raised great alarm, and an announcement was made to all local residents to lock their doors on their drives back home at night and be extremely cautious of anybody who may try and approach their car. One night around 2 a.m., the station received a call that would answer their disturbing question of where these people had disappeared to. A couple had been traveling on the road where the people had gone missing and had just narrowly escaped the fate of those before them. They had fortunately heard the announcement a week before and made sure their doors were locked and kept an eye out for anything out of the ordinary.
Must have had something important to do, 'cause ain't no
Apparently, a few minutes after they had entered an area void of any cell service, they noticed a single ray of light that appeared to be floating directly in the middle of the road,
a UFO?
just a ways down the route. Confused as to what it might be, the couple slowed down cautiously. As they neared the source of light, they saw something that gives them nightmares to this day. Standing in the middle of the road was a chain of people linked together arm in arm, creating a barrier on the street. There was a man in the middle that held a flashlight in his teeth. The car came to a complete stop. There was no way to go forward. Then, what seemed to be a split second after they had stopped their car, out of the complete and utter darkness on each side of the road, two people leapt over the railing and ran towards the car and tried to rip the doors open. The human chain had only been a distraction. Thankfully, their doors were locked, and the husband frantically switched their car into reverse and slammed the gas pedal. They had gotten away and immediately called the station once they regained service. When the police asked if they had seen where they had gone as they drove away, they simply answered with, "Back into the darkness beyond the road." An investigation occurred, but the people in the road were never found. To this day, nobody knows who those people were or where they came from. They eventually did find the bodies of the missing people. Both victims were found bound to what appeared to be a stolen speed limit sign. Their bodies were severely burned. What could be the reasoning behind ripping people from their cars at odd hours of the night and burning them alive out in the middle of nowhere?
That's some crazy shit.
Without any explanation, the police chalked it up to cult activity. But how could it be possible that there was no trace of these people anywhere? It was almost as if they had vanished into thin air. What's more disturbing is the fact that they could still be out there. All I can tell you is to think twice next time you're driving down a dark country road at night and mindlessly staring into that deep darkness just beyond the railing. You never know who could be staring back.
So y'all gonna lock your doors? That one kind of ended like that one ended like abruptly. I thought that something more was going to happen, but I guess the story was solid. I didn't understand because they led with you lose service like anywhere there's no service, and then the couple that saw and survived somehow magically was able to be on the phone and had service, but still had the no service screen up on the phone. So that was confusing. And then where did she go? Like, she disappeared, and then the next scene she back driving. Like, where the hell did she go? That, other than that, it was solid. It was solid. I ain't gonna complain. It was solid. What y'all thought about it as we move to the next?
It was Halloween. My mom and dad had gone to an adult Halloween party at their friend's house and left me, a 14-year-old male, and my sister home alone to hand out candy to the neighborhood kids. We lived on a small farm surrounded by other small farms, and Halloweens were pretty mellow. My sister was 12 and had finally gotten to the age where she thought trick-or-treating and dressing up was embarrassing, and I just liked staying home and playing video games with my friends, so I didn't usually go out on Halloween. The only issue that night was my parents had forgotten to get candy, so they told us to hand out whatever fruit or pretzels we had in the kitchen.
Now you know them,
and that was so embarrassing for me, having to give kids something they didn't want on the one night of the year that they were supposed to be getting candy.
Exactly.
I wasn't too worried about it, given that not many kids lived in our area, so we figured that we wouldn't have to answer the door much at all. We handed out the first batch of apples to disappointed kids, and by 11 p.m., we assumed that we were done for the night. Then came a knock at the door. It was late, and I didn't really want to answer the door again, but I figured it was just little kids, and I didn't want to be rude and ignore them when they could see that the lights were on inside. I got to the door and pulled it open, and was shocked to see 4 very tall guys standing there, all in mass, holding their pillowcases open, seemingly expecting candy.
Maybe like
sorry guys,
23.
We don't have any candy. We've been handing out apples to the kids all night. Might have some pretzels if you want some. The tallest one in front just tilted his head at me almost like he was confused by what I was saying, but none of them actually spoke. I didn't really know what else to do, so I started to close the door. When I went to shut it all the way, one of the guys put his shoe between the door and the door frame to prevent me from closing it. I opened the door again to ask him what his problem was, but instead, he and his friends just pushed their way inside.
What? I
yelled for my sister to run and hide before being shoved to the ground. One of the intruders pulled out a bat out from under his robe and in a low, deep voice said,
"Hey, bro,
we didn't come for any candy." I managed to get onto my hands and knees before being kicked in the stomach, knocking me to the ground once again.
He hit you with a bat.
I tried screaming, but the thing about living on a farm with more land between you and your neighbors than the average neighborhood is no one is going to hear you scream when you need help, but I kept screaming anyways. It's Halloween. You really think anyone's going to think twice about a kid screaming? And this made the rest of them laugh behind their masks. Look, I don't know what you want, but I can give you money if you just leave. Please, you don't need to hurt anyone. I expected a response, but he just laughed at my shaky voice. In a baby talk voice, one of the guys said, "Aw, look, the little baby's scared. Where's Daddy to save you when you need him?" I felt a stinging at my side as the guy with the bat swung it directly into my ribs. I was trying to listen to the voices to figure out how old they were, and from what I could tell, they seemed young enough to be teenagers. There was a lot of thoughts going through my mind in that moment. I mean, they definitely weren't mature at all, and I crawled to the corner of the room in pain as they spoke to each other about what rooms they would go in and what they were going to take. One of the guys took me outside while the others looked around the house for whatever it was they wanted. I saw my sister on the roof, hiding outside her window from the man that I could see had just entered her room. The guy that took me outside had me by the collar of my shirt and was leading me toward the barn. He opened the door to the pig pen and pushed me inside, threatening me with... He opened the door to the pig pen and pushed the collar of my shirt and was leading me toward the barn. He opened the door to...
What is that? No, the hell that is not a mouth on the side of the pig that already has a mouth drawn on it. What is that?
To the pig pen and pushed me inside. Threatening me with the bat, he made me roll around in the mud and film me as he forced me to oink. I was terrified, exhausted, confused, embarrassed, and felt completely humiliated at what I was being forced to do. The guy was laughing the whole time, too. He told me to get up and let me out of the barn and back inside the house to show the rest of his friends what he'd done to me. And they only just joined in the torment. They made me drink the toilet water, eat trash from the trash can, and other things I can't even speak of as they pulled me around. The whole time I was just hoping they wouldn't find my sister. The strange thing is, they hadn't even mentioned her once. They took me to my room and began taking turns throwing punches. I had no idea what I had done to deserve this horrible beating and torture that I was being put through. I was just going through torture in my mind, and I had no idea. I almost blacked out many times. 10 minutes into the beating, I heard one of them ask me where my sister was. They told me that they wanted to have some fun with her and that they'd stop hurting me if I told them.
Nope.
And this was the moment I
ass.
decided to stop talking completely.
Yep, beat my
They could
ass.
hurt me all they wanted. I was not letting them near my sister.
That's right. That's right.
They asked me again, spitting in my face each time I refused to talk.
Beat
But there was
my ass,
nothing
buddy.
they could
You
do
ain't
to
getting
me that
shit
would
from
get me to give her up. Eventually, they tied me to
You
a
got
chair in the
siblings,
kitchen
you would
and just
know. Especially
exited
if
the
you have
house after
siblings,
thoroughly
you would
trashing the
understand.
place. And I must have blacked out at some point because when I woke up, I was in the hospital attached to just a bunch of machines. My mom was crying when she noticed me awake and took her time to tell me exactly what happened. It turns out the girl I had just broken up with the week before asked her brother to scare me as revenge for hurting her. I guess he and his friends were just insane for taking it to the extent that they did. I guess they just got caught up in it, as disgusting as that sounds. Thankfully, they were all arrested, but only the brother was actually sentenced to some jail time. He received 5 years for aggravated assault and home invasion charges. The other guys got probation as a plea deal for ratting him out. I'm still in a lot of pain since this happened less than a year ago, but I guess there's one thing I'd tell kids answering the door for Halloween when their parents aren't home. Always check your peephole first.
No, just don't open the door. Hey, just don't open the door. Just don't open the door. That's all. That's all. No. Don't check the peephole. Just don't open the door. But yeah, what y'all thought about that one? That one, like I said, the strangest thing was that pig that had the mouth drawn on the side of it. Like, I don't know what the hell that was about, but I'm pretty sure that wasn't supposed to be there. I don't know if we caught something that if that was like a little like blooper type thing or a secret or like I don't know, but I know that wasn't supposed to be there. What y'all thought about that one? As we move to our last
I'm a cow
one.
farmer in the Midwest. It's not the best work, but it is work, and with how hard it is to find a job with decent pay these days, I've learned to appreciate it. The job entails cleaning up after the cows, checking their hooves, milking, and helping them give birth when necessary. It's a pretty messy job when you look at it from the outside, but I've gotten pretty used to it. I don't even smell the stink anymore like I did when I first started. It used to be almost unbearable, but now, really nothing. The farm was my father's before me and his father's before him. And the story I'm about to tell you is my dad's. He told it to me back when I first started the job as almost what not to do when tending to the animals and working on the farm. He's long passed now, God rest his soul, but this story has haunted me for years, so I figured I'd let other people hear it and judge it for themselves. This is back in the 60s when Dad was in his early 20s. He worked on the farm with his father, Bill, at the time. He hated it. He hated the stench that would only get worse when the heat came in the summer, and picking up after the cows was the worst.
Tragic.
See, the cows stayed in this huge barn. It was actually more like a big warehouse where
I couldn't do
they're
it.
fed and kept throughout the night.
Couldn't do it.
They got to graze during the day, and throughout the night the cows would defecate and their feces drop to the concrete floor beneath
Still
them.
talking about shit.
Then in the
We
morning, when
understand
the
it.
cows would go out to graze,
Let's
my
stop
dad would
talking
take a
about it.
really long hose
He done
and
said
spray the
shit in,
droppings to
like,
the end of
4
the building
different
down a
ways.
shaft that
Like, let's
leads
cut
to
it
a big
out.
tank below the barn. The tank would fill with the droppings, and once a week we had a guy that would come by and empty the tank and dispose of the waste. It was really nasty work, but my dad did it nonetheless. Well, my grandfather decided that was just too much work to do on the farm with just himself and my dad, so they decided to hire another farmhand. They didn't get anyone interested in the job for the first few weeks until they met a man at a local feed store named Fred. He was in his late 20s and eager to work. He hadn't had a job in years and was desperate for pay since his wife was pregnant with their first child. My grandfather hired him right there in that feed store, and by the next day, Fred was on the farm working harder than anyone my dad had ever seen work. He was determined and super ambitious. He was constantly running around the farm, fixing stuff that needed fixing and trying to learn absolutely everything it was that they did. He loved the job and told everyone how he just wanted to be good at what he was being paid to do. He believed in good, honest work and that people should earn the money they're working for. My dad admitted he loved having Fred around, not just because he worked hard, but also because he was gullible and pretty easily manipulated, I guess. My dad had certain tasks given to him by my grandpa throughout the day, and each time he was told to do something, he just passed that task along to Fred. He didn't mind because he didn't know, and my dad didn't care because it meant less of the work that he hated. About 4 months went by with Fred doing most of the work around the farm, and my dad even started to find it a little funny that he really would do whatever he was told. Without question, he was happy to do it. One hot summer morning, the cows had just gone out to graze, and my grandpa told my dad to spray the droppings down the shaft at the end of the barn like he usually did. My dad then passed the job along to Fred as he sat along the side of the barn to have a smoke. When Fred was done, he came outside to tell my dad that he had an idea that he thought would highly benefit the farm. He told my dad that if he emptied the tank below the barn themselves, they would be able to use the cow feces as manure in the fields. It would fertilize the plants and make them grow bigger and faster.
It's just crazy how shit.
My dad told me that at first he thought the idea was stupid, but then he figured it would be funny to see if Fred actually tried and emptied that feces tank, so he agreed. He didn't tell my grandpa because he knew he never would have approved, and he just wanted to see how this would play out. He showed Fred where to go to the release valve and empty the tank into the big barrels. He told him to be very careful and to not turn the valve too fast, otherwise the line would get clogged and they'd have to call someone to fix it. My dad then left Fred alone to do what he had planned and decided to take a walk around the barn to check the gates and make sure everything was in order. What my dad didn't know at the time was that Fred would end up turning the valve too fast, and the line would end up getting clogged. Fred would then open the tank from above and reach a pole into the sludge to try and dislodge whatever was blocking the line. My dad heard screaming coming from inside the barn and he rushed over to see what was wrong. He made his way down into the tank and was horrified by what he found. Fred had fallen into the huge 5,000-gallon tank that hadn't been emptied for a week and was now drowning in the thick feces, desperately reaching out for help.
Talk about a
By the time my dad got to the top of the ladder and looked into the tank, all he could see was Fred's hand poking out of the brown goo. He grabbed onto it and tried pulling him out, but he had no leverage at all on the top of that tank. He managed to pull Fred up long enough for him to tell my dad that he was just trying to fix it himself since he knew that they'd have to pay someone for his mistake. He felt bad, and my dad reassured him everything would be okay and to just hold on. And that's when his grip failed and Fred plunged back under the thick excrement once again. This time, no part of Fred's body was able to be grabbed onto to possibly rescue him. My dad had no idea what to do, so he ran across the farm as fast as he could to get my grandpa, who immediately called the police. And by the time they made it back to the tank, Fred's hand had disappeared under the sludge, and there was nothing my dad and grandpa could do but wait. The police showed up with firemen, and they didn't know much of what to do either. They ended up reaching a metal pole down into the tank with a sort of loop on the end, and when they pulled Fred out, it was very clear that he had passed. My dad was horrified and felt like it was his fault. He knew it was a bad idea, but thought it would be funny. He could have stopped Fred, but his own arrogance let him do it. Fred's wife became a widow and she never remarried. She named their son after him and eventually moved out of town. My dad made a point to work as hard as Fred did every day for the rest of his life in honor of the man whose death he felt he was responsible for. My dad passed away in 2018, and the last thing he said to me was to never take advantage of someone's hard work.
Facts. That's crazy. What did y'all think of that one? That was our last story for this episode. That was 6 stories again. But what did y'all think of that? That's crazy. Like I said, would y'all jump into that and save the person, especially if you're responsible for it? As for I think I would, realistically speaking, I would jump in there, like say fuck it, jump in there, try to get him up out of there. Like I said, still holding on to the thing so I can maintain my leverage and stuff like that. But that's crazy. That's crazy to think about. Like, could you imagine going out like that? That is like gotta be like top 2 worst ways to die. Like drowning in shit. Like think about that. Drowning in shit. That is, it's horrible. I can't even imagine. But yes, that concludes this video. Let me know what you guys think of the videos. Like I said, during the live premiere, you can comment live during there what you think of it, how you feel, stuff like that, how you react with it, like what you would do and stuff like that. Then also, if you're watching it after the live premiere, just leave a comment. Also, as I mentioned earlier in the intro, if there's any horror videos, any horror games, like shorter ones that you think would be good for this series, let me know. Drop that in the comment section, or even shoot me an email. I have my email listed in my bio of YouTube. Just shoot me an email or post it in the comment section or whatever, because I would love to be able to do it. Doesn't matter how long it is. It could be a short TikTok clip, it could be longer videos, longer than these. It could be, doesn't matter. Just shoot it down there if you think it'd be good, because you never know. I look at everything. I try to look at it all. But yes, that concludes this week's video. Hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, and you are enjoying the videos on the channel, please make sure I continue to smash that like button. It really does help. If you're new to the community, smash that sub button so you become a part of it. Then hit that bell notification off to the side so you can be alerted whenever I go live and I'll post another video. And as always, if there's any content you would like to see created here on the channel, drop that in the comment section below. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, y'all have a great